after expelling his wife and child from their home to make room for his lover. Weeks later, the husband can't believe what he discovers when a cold winter night marks the beginning of a transformation Clara could never have imagined. Betrayed by the man who swore to love her, she finds herself lost, with her young son, searching for a new beginning. But all is not lost. Amid the darkness, Clara discovers that the past holds secrets that may be the key to her future. Clara was walking home after a long day of work, with Lucas, her 5-year-old son, holding her hand tightly. It was a cold winter night, and she longed to find the comfort of her home and the warm embrace of her husband, Marcos. The walk through the quiet, snow-covered streets was accompanied by Lucas's soft laughter as he kicked small piles of snow, turning the walk into a little adventure. As they approached the house, Clara noticed something strange. The porch light was off. She frowned. Marcos always left the light on to welcome her, a gesture symbolizing the warmth and love they shared. This small change sent a chill through her, as if the cold night had seeped into her chest. Clara pulled out her keys and tried to unlock the door, but the key wouldn't turn. She tried again, harder, but nothing happened. "Mommy, why aren't we going inside?" Lucas asked, his voice soft and innocent. Trying to hide her worry, Clara answered calmly, "Don't worry, sweetheart. It's probably just a problem with the lock." She tried again, but still no success. Puzzled, she rang the doorbell. An unsettling silence followed. As she waited, she found herself thinking about how the routine and security of everyday life could sometimes hide unpleasant surprises behind a calm facade. The footsteps on the other side of the door were accompanied by a growing sense of anxiety. When the door finally opened, Clara was greeted by a young woman with perfectly styled hair and elegant clothes. She wore a strong perfume and bright red lipstick that contrasted sharply with her pale skin. Clara felt a shiver run down her spine. She didn't know this woman. "Can I help you?" the woman asked with a cold, dismissive smile. Clara tried to maintain her composure despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. "I live here. I'm Clara, Marcos's wife." "Who are you?" The woman's expression shifted to one of superiority and disdain. "Oh, so you're the ex-wife. Marcos didn't mention you'd be coming. Anyway, you don't live here anymore. I'm Renata, and this house is mine now." Clara was speechless, the reality hitting her hard. "This must be a mistake. I'm Marcos's wife. This is our home." She tried to stay calm, but her voice was already trembling. Renata, with a condescending look, pulled out a suitcase from inside the house and tossed it outside, followed by another. "Marcos said you knew. He made his choice, and that choice was me. Now, kindly leave my property." Lucas, watching the scene unfold, began to cry, clinging to his mother's legs, confused and scared. Clara, feeling humiliated and betrayed, grabbed the suitcases and tried to comfort her son. "It's okay, my love. We'll find somewhere else to stay," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. Without another word, she turned and walked to the car. The tears finally flowed down her cheeks as she closed the car door and drove away from the house, leaving behind everything she knew and loved. Driving along the deserted road, Clara could barely see through the tears that blurred her vision. The world around her seemed to crumble, and with every mile, the weight of abandonment grew heavier. Lucas, still sobbing, asked in a shaky voice, "Mommy, where are we going now?" The pain in Clara's chest intensified. She had no ready answer. Everything she thought she had was lost. With no destination in mind, Clara drove for hours, trying to think of a safe place to stay. Amid her despair, a memory surfaced, the old boat her father had loved so much. It had been a special refuge for him, a place where he found peace. Clara had always felt a deep connection to the boat, even though Marcos had never understood its sentimental value. Finally, as they arrived at the pier, the boat looked desolate under the dim light of the moon. The paint was worn, and the windows were covered in dust. Clara hesitated for a moment, contemplating the symbolism of the place. To her, the boat represented a simpler, safer past, something she desperately wanted for herself and Lucas. Determined, Clara took Lucas by the hand and stepped aboard. The door was stuck, but with some effort, she managed to open it. The interior was covered in a thick layer of dust, but it was shelter. Looks like we have a lot of work ahead of us, she said, trying to sound optimistic. Clara placed Lucas on an old sofa and began exploring the space. She found some old blankets and covered Lucas, who quickly fell asleep, exhausted. She gazed at her son's peaceful face and felt a surge of determination. "We'll be okay," she whispered to herself, as if saying it aloud could make it true. While cleaning the boat, Clara came across an old wooden box hidden on a high shelf. Inside, there were old photos, letters, and some documents. With trembling fingers, she pulled out a stack of papers and began to examine them. Her eyes widened when she realized they were property deeds and investment documents. "I never knew Dad had this," she whispered, stunned. She sat down, trying to process the information. Suddenly, a faint hope began to grow within her. Perhaps, amidst all the chaos, there was a way out. As soon as the sun rose, Clara decided to find more information about the documents she had discovered. She quickly got ready, dressed Lucas, and with the papers in hand, drove to the nearest bank. The exhaustion was visible in her eyes, but her determination kept her moving forward. She knew she needed to secure a safe future for her son. At the bank, Clara was greeted by a friendly manager. She explained her situation and showed him the documents. After reviewing the papers, the manager looked at her with surprise. "Ma'am, these documents are legitimate. From what I can see, you are the heir to several properties and substantial investments. Your father was very prudent." Clara could hardly believe what she was hearing. "So I really have access to these assets?" she asked, still in disbelief. The manager confirmed, explaining that all the assets were in her name and that she could manage them as she saw fit. He offered to help her organize all the necessary documentation so she could access the funds and properties. Relieved and hopeful, Clara began to make plans. She decided to renovate the old boat, turning it into a comfortable and welcoming refuge, a tribute to her father's memory. She also found a house in a quiet neighborhood, one of the inherited properties, where she and Lucas could start a new life. The house was spacious, with a beautiful garden, and Clara imagined how wonderful it would be to create new memories there. As the boat renovations progressed, Clara and Lucas moved into the new house. The transition was full of emotions. Clara felt grateful for the new opportunity, but also determined not to repeat the mistakes of the past. She devoted herself to creating a warm and safe environment for Lucas, involving him in activities to help him adjust. She enrolled him in a nearby school, where he quickly made friends. Clara also reconnected with old acquaintances and family, finding support in people who truly cared about her. It was during one of these gatherings that she met Mark, a kind and caring young man who was interested in her story and offered unconditional support. He became a great friend, always present, and slowly, their relationship began to turn into something more. Life was starting to take a positive turn. Clara started attending yoga classes and joined a support group for single mothers, where she could share her story and hear about others' experiences. Each day was a step toward healing and building a new identity, far from the shadows of the past. News of Clara's transformation spread quickly. It didn't take long for her ex-husband, Marcos, to hear about the turnaround. He was in a difficult situation, having been abandoned by Renata, who left him for a younger, more financially stable man. Marcos, helpless and regretful, decided to try to win Clara back, and with her, his former life. One afternoon, as Clara and Lucas were enjoying a peaceful moment in the garden of their new home, Marcos appeared. He looked visibly worn out, his face marked by stress and his clothes disheveled. He approached the door, expecting to find Clara in a vulnerable position, perhaps even asking for help. But to his surprise, the door was opened by Mark, shirtless, revealing his athletic physique. Mark smiled, cordial but firm. "You must be Marcos," he said, extending his hand. "Clara's out in the garden. Would you like to come in?" Marcos, still in shock, just nodded and entered. As he walked through the house, he noticed how everything was well kept and full of life. The contrast with his expectation of finding despair was overwhelming. In the garden, Clara and Lucas were laughing, playing hide and seek. Clara looked radiant, an image of happiness and peace. Marcos, with a heavy heart, tried to collect himself. Clara, I'm sorry. I made a big mistake. Can we try again? Clara paused, surprised, but remained composed. Marcos, a lot has happened since you left us. I've rebuilt my life and I'm better off now. I found someone who truly cares about me and Lucas. She glanced at Mark, who was approaching, his protective and loving gaze evident. Marcos, seeing the bond between Clara and Mark, felt a deep pang of regret. He knew he had lost something precious. Please, Clara, I was lost, confused. But I see now how important you and Lucas are to me. Can we at least try to be a family again? With a serene expression, Clara replied, You made your choice, Marcos, and I've made mine. Mark and I are building a life together, a happy and safe life. Lucas has a loving home, and that's what matters to me now. She looked at Marcos with compassion, but also with the certainty that her future lay with Mark and not with the past that Marcos represented. Still stunned, Marcos left Clara's house with a heavy heart. He knew he had lost everything that truly mattered. As he walked down the street, a sense of emptiness enveloped him. He reflected on the choices he made and how they had led him to lose the woman he loved and the son he never truly knew. Inside the house, Clara and Mark were getting ready for dinner. Mark was helping Lucas with his homework, a routine he had lovingly embraced. Clara couldn't help but smile as she watched them together. Mark had become a father figure to Lucas, providing the stability and love he needed. Days passed and life continued its course. Clara and Mark began planning their wedding with joy and simplicity. They opted for a small ceremony, with just close friends and a few family members. For Clara, the wedding was more than just a celebration. It was a symbol of rebirth and a new beginning. She chose a simple yet elegant dress, reflecting her new self. On the wedding day, the sun shone brightly, blessing their union. Her father's old boat, now beautifully restored, was the perfect setting for the ceremony. Friends and family gathered to celebrate Clara's love and resilience. There was an atmosphere of joy and serenity, and every detail of the celebration reflected the new life Clara had chosen. During the ceremony, Mark made his vows with sincerity and emotion. I promise to always love and protect you, Clara. You and Lucas are my family, and I want to spend the rest of my life building a happy future for us. Clara, moved, responded with equal sincerity. Mark, you've brought light into our lives. I promise to love and support you in every circumstance, sharing every moment with gratitude and joy. After the wedding, Clara, Mark, and Lucas began living a full and joyful life. Clara returned to her studies, something she had abandoned due to the responsibilities of adulthood. She found a new passion in psychology, determined to help other women who, like her, had faced challenges in their relationships. It became her new life mission, a way to give back the support she had received. Mark, in turn, started a new business, inspired by Clara's love and his desire to build a solid future for the family. He invested in a small eco-design company, reflecting his commitment to sustainability and the well-being of the community. Clara supported him wholeheartedly, contributing ideas and encouraging him to follow his passions. Lucas flourished in his new environment, surrounded by love and support. He adored their new home and felt secure with Mark by his side. The insecurities he had once felt began to fade, replaced by growing confidence. He excelled in school, made new friends, and got involved in various extracurricular activities, from soccer to the arts. Their home became a place of happy gatherings and laughter. Clara made sure to create a warm and inviting atmosphere where friends and family always felt welcome. Weekends were often spent on the boat, which had become a symbol of resilience and memory. Every trip to the boat was a reminder of her father's legacy and the new memories they were building together. One day, Clara received a letter from Marcos. He apologized once again, but this time in a different way. He admitted his mistakes and acknowledged that Clara had found her happiness without him. He wished only the best for her and Lucas, and hoped that one day he could redeem himself and have a small place in Lucas's life. After reading the letter, Clara felt a mix of emotions. But deep down, she knew she had forgiven Marcos. She had learned that holding onto resentment only prolonged the pain. She replied with a sincere letter, thanking him for his apologies and expressing her hope that he would find his own peace. It was the closure of a painful chapter in her life and the beginning of a new one, marked by peace and forgiveness. Life moved forward naturally. Clara, Mark, and Lucas continued to grow as a family, always looking to the future with hope. The love and compassion that bound them were unbreakable, and each day together was a celebration of second chances and new beginnings. And so, Clara discovered that even after the darkest moments, it's possible to find light. Her journey was marked by pain and loss, but also by love and renewal. And in the end, she knew that the most important thing in life is to move forward with an open heart and a resilient spirit.